Hi, it's Stephen here for Class Act, and today's tutorial we're going to be creating this Christmas album. In fact, you'll learn how to make the basic structure of this album, which doesn't necessarily have to be Christmas. It could be for any occasion, birthdays, anniversaries, other holidays, whatever. But it's a beautiful little album that also doubles as a very elaborate card. So we'll just show you inside. It's called a shutter fold mini album. And these flaps open up from the cover, and voila, it opens out. Hard to get it all in one shot. But all this real estate for pictures, for journaling, for whatever you want to put into it. And I think it's going to make a really lovely gift at Christmas time or any time of the year. So you can move on to the first step, and we're going to work on the basic album itself. Our first step is to make the basic structure of the album. So for this you're going to need 2 pieces of 12 by 12 cardstock, and you're going to take both of these pieces of 12 by 12 cardstock and you're going to cut them down to 2 strips that measure 6 by 12. So now you have 4 6 by 12 strips. You're going to set 2 of those aside, and then you're going to take one of these 6 by 6 strips and you're going to cut it to 2 pieces 6 by 6, and take the last one and you're going to cut that into a strip 8 by 6, which will leave you with a piece that's 4 inches by 6. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take one of our 6 by 12 strips and we're going to score it. And we're going to score it at 2 inches, 4 inches, 8 inches, 8 inches, and then at 10 inches. And you're going to do the same thing with the second 6 by 12 strip. Score at 2 inches, 4 inches, 8 inches, and 10 inches. Now, we're going to take one of our 6 by 12 sheets and we're going to cut it from one edge at 1.5 inches, but we're going to cut between the 2-inch score mark and the 10-inch score mark, which I know is very difficult to see in this video. So you're at 1.5 inches from the edge, and you're going to score at the 2-inch, or sorry, you're going to cut at the 2-inch down to the 10-inch score line. So you have a slit like that. Turn it over to the other edge, 1.5 inches from it, and do the same thing from the 2-inch to the 10-inch score mark. So you have a piece that looks like this. If you went a little over your score mark, it's not going to be a problem. Okay? Do it one more time with the second one. So we're going to go from 1.5 inches from the edge and cut from the 2-inch to the 10-inch score line. Turn it over, 1.5 inches from the edge, cut from the 2-inch to the 10-inch score line. Okay, now before we do any folding, let me move this out of the way. You're going to take the 4-inch by 6-inch piece that we cut, and you're going to take these 2 pieces, and on the little 2-inch flap here and the 2-inch flap here, you're going to put some double-sided tape. You can use wet glue for this as well, but I find double-sided tape holds just as well, and of course you don't have to wait for the drying time. And I'm just putting a couple of strips on. I'm using 1/2 inch score tape or express it tape, either one work. You could use 1/4 inch. It's really up to you. Whatever you have will work fine. You just want to make sure this is very secure. And I always like to varnish with my bone folder the tape before I take off the protective back. This just makes sure that it's adhering to my cardstock. And I will now take that backing off, and if you've seen the videos before, you know I like to use my paper piercer for this because I don't have fingernails that can get a hold of this very well. And now I'm going to take that 4" by 6" piece, and I'm just going to move 1/2 of this away, move that out of our shot, and I'm just going to line it up with that 2" score line and make sure it's square, the edges are even. Smooth that down, and then I'm going to take the other piece and I'm going to do the same thing. A little awkward to do this on camera because I'm trying to keep my head out of the shot. So line it up with the 2" score and square it on the edges and smooth it down. Okay, so now we have the one long strip. Now we're going to fold these on the score lines, and this is how we're going to do it. Starting at the far end, the right hand side, that first score mark, you're going to fold under so it's a mountain fold. Then these two little segments that are here, which are at the next score line, you're going to valley fold. And the piece in the middle, the larger piece on that fold, is going to become a mountain fold. And give them a good crease. Now if you want, you can take them, and as you fold them, just take your bone folder and give them a good rub. Then moving along, you're going to fold this large piece, because this is mountain, this one's going to become valley, the opposite. And these ones were valleys, so the opposite, small ones, are going to become mountain. And then you should be able to take the whole thing and just fold it in to the center just like that. So you've got kind of a backwards E look. Now when you have it folded this way, again, go over the creases with your bone folder. The more this gets open and closed, the easier it's going to be to fold back into its set. Now take it, flip it around, and we're going to do the same thing again. So this first score line is a mountain. Then we have the two shorter ones are going to be valleys. The longer segment is going to be a mountain. Then the two shorter segments, because this was a valley, they are going to be mountains. And the longer piece, because that one was a mountain, will become a valley. And then we're going to take it and fold the pieces in to the center. So we have that backwards E, and there we have the two pieces. Again, give it a good rub with the bone folder. And if it's a little off, just sort of give it a little twist and run that bone folder over it again. Okay, so what we have now, when we open it up, we have our sections. Now, we have another piece that's 4 by 8 that we cut. This one, and it's 6 by 8. Okay, so it's 6 this way, it's 8 this way. So turn this over, and you're going to be adhering this to the back. But you don't want to put tape all over everything in the back here. you want to take the tape and put it along this center piece and along these little wider middle pieces. If you put it on these, your book won't open properly. So let's get out our tape and I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to put a piece across the top here. I'm going to put a piece along the bottom here. And I'm going to run a piece down here. So basically, the inside rectangle, I'm putting tape all around the perimeter of that. Let's get that out of our way. And then on this middle flap, I'm just putting tape Now, if you have 1/4 inch tape, you might want to use 1/4 inch here, just to get it all to the edges. I'm not going to worry about that for this demo. This will secure it well enough. Okay, so basically I have sort of a cross formation. Okay, let's varnish all these pieces of tape so to make sure that they're sticking. Again, glue will work, but you gotta wait for it to dry. And I just find glue messy, and I like tape much better. So we're going to take off the backing. So again, this is the 6x8 piece, and we're going to line it up. Make sure it's square. Line it up with the top edge and the right and left edges, the bottom, and give it a good rub. Okay, so there we go. Our last part is to attach those two 6x6 pieces as cover pieces to these. But before we do that, we already have them cut, but we need to do some scoring again. So you're going to take one of the 6x6 pieces and you're going to score it at 2 inches from one edge. And take the second piece of 6x6 and do exactly the same, scoring it 2 inches from one edge. Once you have them scored, you can fold them over and give them a good rub with your bone folder. Okay, let's get this out of our way. Let's bring back our book. Now, on the book, on each side, you have these flaps. All right. What you want to do is, on the right side or the left side, doesn't matter which one you start with, just fold this over. Okay, so you see what I did? I just, right along the crease line, the score line, I just fold it over this way. And this is the side you want to put your two-sided tape on. So, again, we're going to varnish that tape. Make sure it's sticking well. We're going to peel off the protective covering. And then we're going to take one of our 6x6 pieces with the fold, and I'm just going to turn this way so I can see the tape. And I'm going to place this, see there's where the fold is. So that's 2 inches right there. I'm going to line that up with this 2-inch flap. So I want to keep it square, so I'll use the fold lines that are already on here, and I'll use the edges to square it up and just fold it down. And then just bend that back, and bend it back from there, and just fold that over. And again, give it a good rub with your bone folder. Okay, so that's one cover on. So we're going to do the same to this. So we're just going to flip that side over. So you see, I'm just flipping that over. And I'm going to put my two-sided tape. I'm just going to open that up so it's because it's in my way. And again, I'm going to take my 6-inch with the score, and I'm just going to line up that 2-inch flap with the 2-inch flap on here, lining it up with that score line at the bottom and the edges, and get that good smooth down. Flip it back over, flip this piece back over, varnish it, and this is where you might have to do some squaring up, because I think that I got that a little close at the top, but not a problem. I could peel it off, or I'm just going to make a forced fold, because remember, this is just the foundation, and all of it is going to be covered up with our decorative paper. So there's our basic album done. So it opens this way, and it closes this way. Okay, in the next step, we're going to talk about covering the two cover pieces and the back piece with our pattern paper and adding our ribbon for our closure. Our next stage is to cut the pattern paper to fit our front covers and our back part of the album. Now, you can pick any kind of paper that you want for this particular album, and because this is a Christmas album, I am using some Christmas paper. But what I really wanted was to be able to cut out pieces that had some of these interesting little prints on them. So I basically built a map for myself as to how I needed to cut this particular 12 by 12 piece of pattern cardstock so I'd get the right sizes for the covers. This is really just a template for me. Now, if you have paper, of course, that doesn't have a very specific pattern to it, you can cut anywhere on your paper that you wish. And in order to make this easy for you in the workshop, I already pre-cut the pieces for you. But just to let you know the size of each piece, after I cut this down, I have 3 pieces. The 2 for the front covers, they measure 3 3/4 inches by 5 3/4 inches, and what this will give me when I put it down will give me a little bit of about 1/8 of an inch black border all the way around. And I need 2 pieces cut that way. So those measurements again are 3 3/4 this way, 5 3/4 this way. And then we need a piece to cover up the back, and this piece measures 7 3/4 this way by 5 3/4 this way. So let's start with the cover pieces. But one thing after you've got them cut out and before you glue them down to your base album, I just distress the edges using Fire Brick Distress ink and my ink applicator. And I've already done these 2 pieces, and I'm just going to finish up with this piece. And so I'm using my ink applicator. You can use a finger dauber, a makeup sponge, whatever suits you, and I'm just lightly going around the edges with this color. Why I'm using Fire Brick Red? Well, because I'm going to be using this color later for the sparkling poinsettia embellishment that's going on the cover of this, so I thought I'd keep it consistent, but you could use any color that you wish, and I just think it makes it pop a little bit more. So once you've got that done, then we're going to attach these 2 pieces to the front cover. And just as a sideline here, by attaching these, oops, I'm just going to smooth that down because I felt that needed a little bit more of a rub. By attaching these to the covers and to the back, it just makes the album a little bit more stable, a little bit more substantial. So I'm going to put these down using my double-sided tape again. Wet glue you can use as well. The only thing now at this stage, when you're layering papers on top of each other and you use wet glue, depending on the glue, you can get some buckling. And that's why I like using the double-sided tape, because I avoid the possibility of having the tape or the glue cause a buckling. And so now I want to varnish that, so oops, sorry about the noise. I'm going to gather my bone folder and do this. And just for the sake of speed, I'm going to take the second cover and I'm going to do the same thing. Again, I'm using 1/2 inch Express It tape, but 1/4 inch would work as well. You notice too, I just ripped my tape. No one's going to see this side, so I really don't care about using scissors for it. But if you are more inclined for that, then by all means, do whatever grabs you. And here we go. Let's get this tape off of here. For this piece. And now, this one's going to go on the right side cover, so I'm just going to line it up. And I'm just eyeballing it here. If you want to put in little guidelines with a pencil and a ruler, you can, but I'm just eyeballing it. So I'm getting about 1/8 of an inch border around there. I'm going to put the second piece on. And there we go, we've got our cover pieces on. Now we're going to do the back piece, and that's this larger piece. And again, this measures 7 3/4 by 5 3/4, and I've inked the edges of this. So I'm going to lay down some double-sided tape. If you want to put a piece down the middle, you could. Again, I find that this is enough. This holds it very well. Now, you want to take your album and turn it upside down. But remember, if you're using a piece that has a very specific pattern, you want to have this oriented in the same way so that when you lay it down, you turn it up, it's the right side up. So just keep that in mind. If you're not using something with a specific graphic on it, then it really doesn't matter. Oh, but one thing I just about forgot to do, and I'm famous for forgetting to do this, we want to add the piece of ribbon on this first before we lay this down. So let's just set that aside for a second and get out our piece of ribbon. Now, I'm using a plain red ribbon for this, but if you have something that has a very definite pattern or has words on it, again, you're going to make sure that the words are going to appear in the right, when you turn it over, facing up when you tie it into a bow. You may have to do a little bit of experimenting with that depending on what's written on your bow before you glue it down. Now the way I'm going to glue this down is very simple. Because my backing piece already has tape on it, I can just take a tape runner or a bead of glue, or I can use double-sided tape again for this, and just run a strip across the middle. Maybe 2 strips, depends on how thick your ribbon is. And just sort of even it up. Again, I'm just eyeballing it. And lay it down. If you've got too much adhesive on either side of it, it doesn't really matter because we're going to put the cover piece on, and that's going to cover it up, and it's also going to reinforce the ribbon. So again, we're lining it up so we have about 1/8 of an inch of a border all the way around. Secure that. Turn it over. And now we can tie our bow. Now, I will admit I'm not the world's best bow tire. So some of you are probably better at that, so go for it. And then I'm just going to take and trim off the edges. But I am going to leave the ends fairly long for two reasons. One, it looks decorative, and two, it just gives you more to hang on to when you retie the bow. Okay, so now we've done the exterior of our album. Our next part of the project is to cut the pieces we need to cover up each of the blocks on the inside of the album. In the next step, you're going to want to cut your pattern paper to fit each of the spots on the inside of the album. My suggestion for this is I did this all with 2 pieces of paper that were double-sided, so I had 4 sides to pick from. I actually only had 3 sides to pick from because one of those pieces of paper was the paper that I used for the cover, and I could use that side as well. It's really up to the individual. In fact, the way you lay this out is all up to you. There isn't really any right way to do it. But what I do suggest you do is cut out the pieces one by one and just place them before you glue them down as to what you like. So you can move pieces around to get, you know, the shadows, the lights, the darks, whatever way you want to, depending on the paper you're using. Now, if you're interested in how many different pieces there are and what their size is, here's the list. You're going to need 5 pieces cut 3 3/4 inches by 5 3/4 inches. Actually, that's not correct. You only need 3 pieces, that are cut 3 3/4 inches by 5 3/4 inches. And those are these pieces on the back of the 2 covers and in the center. And then you need 2 pieces cut 1 3/4 by 5 3/4, and these are the long pieces that fit on either side of here. You're going to need 8 pieces cut 1 3/4 by 1 1/4 inches, and these are the pieces that are going in these little spots here. So you need 8 of those. So there's 4 here and another 4 over here. You're going to need 4 pieces cut 1 3/4 inches by 2 3/4 inches, and they're the pieces that go here and here and here and here. And you need 2 pieces cut 3 3/4 inches by 2 3/4 inches, and that's for these areas in here. You'll need 4 pieces cut 4 3/4 inches by 1 1/4 inches, and these are these long rectangular pieces here and here and here. And so that's everything that you need cut for this. So after you got it all laid out and you know where you want to put the pieces, and before you adhere it, you should go around the edges with your fire bricked distress ink, just as we did with the cover pieces, just to make them pop. And then you can set them all down on here, glue them down, and we'll come back to how to finish off this album with our embellishments on the front. So now we have all of the panels adhered and distressed on our inside of our album, so we can close that up. And for our final touches, we're going to add a label down here, and we're going to add some sparkling poinsettia up here. So what we need is, you need to cut out 3 sparkling poinsettia. They come from the Sparkling Poinsettia set by Heartfelt Creations, and I stamped them in red ink, in the fire brick red first, and then I cut them out using the matching die. So I've cut out 3 sizes, the large, the medium, and the small. With the labels, I used a small oval label, and I used one of the labels from Spellbinders, and that's listed in your kit, which products that I used for all of this, so you can find them on that. Now we're going to need 2 copper brads. Any brads that you have laying around will probably do for this. So we're going to go back to our fire brick red again, and we're going to distress the edges of all of these pieces. So we're just putting it on this one cut from Spellbinders. Again, the whole idea of using the distress ink around the edges is just so these elements will pop out. And we're going to do this for the sparkling poinsettia as well. And on the sparkling poinsettia, I'm kind of not just doing the edges, but I'm kind of lightly going over the tips of the petals of the flower itself as well, just to add a little bit more color to this. Okay, so we've got all of that done. So what we're going to do first is we're just going to put the sparkling poinsettias to the side, and we are going to put the label together. The idea of this label is it could be a title for your album in here, or the year. If it's a Christmas album, you could put in the year, whatever. Before we put these two pieces together and then mount them to the front of this, we're going to use our paper piercer, and we're going to punch a couple of holes, one in each point here, to drop our brads into. Now I'm just doing it here on my craft mat, my self-healing craft mat. And you'll notice I didn't measure anything, I just eyeballed it. You can measure if that's more to your liking. I know for some people that's important. To me, it's not. I just like to eyeball. Spread the wings of the brad on the back. Get this in shot. So have those on either side. And then what we're going to do is we're going to grab our pop dots. And just let me find mine here. And I'm going to use, I think, my larger ones. Yeah, these ones will do. Just flip this over. And I'm going to put 4 on the back of this. 2 might be enough, but 4, I think, for something this size will give it some stability. And I'm going to place this, you can place it wherever you like, but I'm just going to place it right down here. And I'm going to add the centerpiece. And now I have the option here, I could pop it up as well, or I can leave it flat. I think I'm going to pop it up. It's just a matter of your choice, whatever you like. I just think when things get popped up, they add a little dimension to it and they create a natural shadow, which highlights the embellishment. Okay, so I've got my label on. Okay, in the next step, we're going to do some flower molding with our sparkling poinsettias to make them pop, and then we're going to finish everything up. Okay. For our final treatment of the embellishments on the cover of our album, I'm just going to do some paper molding of these poinsettias. And I'm sure you're familiar with paper molding. We have a pad here and we have a stylus, and we're just going to turn the poinsettia face down, and we're just going to take the ball of the stylus and we're just going to gently but firmly roll around the perimeter and the inside of each of the petals. And this is just going to give us a 3-dimensional look. I'm just going to put it down and press it in the middle here. Okay, there's one done. So that's my large one. And I'm doing these as layers. So now I'm going to do the same thing to the middle layer, the medium-sized sparkling poinsettia. And the last one is the smallest one. I'm going to switch to a little smaller stylus ball for this. The more you do this, the more dimension you'll get, so it's really up to you. And then we're going to take the best glue on the face of the planet, I think, which is the Designer Art Glitter Glue. It dries clear, it super holds, and it dries pretty fast. And on mine, I have this little metal tip, which gives me even more control. Now my bottle's kind of old, so I'm shaking it down here, see if I can get it going. I'm just going to put a drop here in the center of the big one. And I'm going to stagger the petals. I'm going to use my stylus just to press that down in the center. Another drop here for the smaller one, and the same thing, I'm just going to stagger it and press it down and just hold it for a few seconds. Okay. Now, I'm just going to move these out of my way, and I'm ready to mount this. And I think I'm going to put it right there. So now I could do this with a pop dot if I wished, but I think there's enough dimension on this already. I don't need to pop it any further, but that's an option. And I'm just putting a little glue in the center here and pressing it down. I like to use the stylus to do this because it helps me from crushing with my hand the petals on here and gets that glue right down. And there we go, that's adhered. Now, there's a couple of other things I want to do to just finish this off. One of those is using my Wink of Stella with a good shake. And if you're not familiar with Wink of Stella, and most people are, Wink of Stella, this one's a clear one. It's a water brush, and this is filled with a solution that has glitter in it, and it does a really nice job of adding just a subtle shine to things. And I'm just going to get it going here. There it is. And I'm just going to very lightly just brush over my poinsettia petals. Now I don't know if the shimmer is being picked up by the camera. It may or may not be. But trust me, there is shimmer on this. And it's not a heavy shimmer. It's a nice light shimmer, so it's subtle. But I think in its subtlety is its elegance. You may find that the Distress ink, when the Wink of Stella comes in contact with it, will sort of run a little bit, but that's okay. That just adds a little bit more depth, I think, to the overall look of the poinsettia. And I think I've got pretty much enough on it right now. Yep. So let's just see if I can get the light to pick that up, the glimmer. Bring it up. Can you see the sparkle? It's subtle. There's a little bit there. Okay, and my last finishing touch, and I need to move over to my supplies. And I'm looking for my, there it is, for my red stickles. It's actually Christmas red stickles, and red stickles is glitter glue. And I'm just going to get it started because sometimes air gets trapped in it and you get a big blob. And all I want is a little dot here in the center of my flower. And that is plenty. And there we have it. We're all finished. So we can tie our bow. As I mentioned before, I'm really not that good at bow tying. You are probably better, so yours will look better than mine. And there we have it. We have a nice little Christmas album. Very easy to make, a lot of fun, and I'm sure anybody that you might give this to at the Christmas season will be very appreciative of it. Appreciative is what I want to say of it. Thanks a lot. Hope to see you in another class soon. Bye-bye.